Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Yana Johnson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer Liz Miller. We warmly welcome the family of Corporal Charles Leslie Tasman Hay, whose story will be told shortly. We warmly welcome the members of the Airborne and Special Forces Association of Australia who are attending this evening's ceremony. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. We also warmly welcome members of Dookie RSL and are honoured to have in attendance leading aircraftsman, retired Ken Hindman, who served in the Second World War. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is earth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which he remained true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record, which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Corporal Charles Leslie Tasman Hay. Charles Leslie Tasman Hay, known to his friends and family as Charlie, was born in December 1892 in Tullua on the west coast of Tasmania. He was the seventh of 10 children born to Anne and George Hay. Attending school in Devonport, Charlie attained the rank of sergeant in the volunteer cadets. He then moved to Victoria, where he followed his trade as a bootmaker. Charlie joined the Army in July 1915, and after training in Australia, joined the 24th Australian Infantry Battalion for further training in Egypt. From there, he and his battalion sailed to France in March 1916 and marched north to join the Allied forces on the Western Front. In August, he was promoted to Lance Corporal, and in February 1917 to Corporal. 3 of the Hay brothers served in the First World War. Charlie's older brother, Private George Hay, joined the Australian Imperial Force August 1914 and was wounded on Gallipoli. He was wounded more seriously later at the Western Front before returning to Australia. Another older brother, Private Ernest Victor Hay, joined the Army after Charlie. Charlie experienced many of the different aspects of fighting on the Western Front. In June 1916, he and the company of men took part in a nighttime raid on the German trenches south of Armentières in France. The raid was a success, and the Australians took 5 German prisoners. The 24th Battalion took part in one of the battles of control of the Mouquet farm in late August 1916. Australian and British troops fought for control of this ruined farmhouse well into September 1916, aiming to extend Allied control northwards from Pozières to Tepenval, northern France. Charlie's battalion began their engagement on the 22nd of August when the Australian troops first took farm and discovering an underground tunnel system held by the large numbers of German reserve troops. As a result, they could not hold the farm, and Charlie and his battalion were relieved by the 15th Battalion in late August. In the autumn months of 1916, the battalion spent time on labouring duties, working on roadworks and undertaking railway maintenance in the northern France. During the winter of 1916 and 1917, there were heavy falls of snow and very cold weather, which took a toll on Charlie's health. In March 1917, he was evacuated to England with a bad case of trench foot and frostbite on his toes. He fully recovered before returning to France at the end of July. Throughout August, the 24th Battalion was stationed at Waldrec in northern France, where the men maintained an exhausting training regime. The training was in preparation for the fighting that the commanders expected them to undertake. Days were devoted to fighting in forests, using grenades and avoiding injuries in gas attacks. At the end of September, Charlie and his comrades marched into Ypres sector, Belgium. At this time, the British commanders launched an offensive aimed at pushing the Germans out of Flanders altogether. Collectively, the campaign is known as the Third Battle of Ypres. Along with other British and Imperial troops, Charlie and the 24th Battalion fought their way eastwards towards Passchendaele Ridge in the support of this objective. They had an initial success at Meehan Road and Polygon Wood, but at the cost of many casualties. On the 4th of October, Charlie's battalion was involved in the successful taking of the high ground in Brudensinde. That same day, the fine weather ended and heavy rain set in. Deep mud severely slowed the advance of the British and Imperial troops. Supplies and artillery. On the 8th of October, the 24th Battalion was stationed at Zunderbaker Ridge when they came under German artillery fire. Charlie was sitting in the trench speaking with 2 other soldiers when a shell hit them, killing all 3 instantly. He was 24 years old. His brother, Private Ernest Victor Hay, was also fighting in the Third Battle of Ypres. He had been killed in action at the Brudensinde 4 days earlier, less than 2 kilometres away from Charlie. Today, both brothers' names are inscribed on the Meehan Gate Memorial in Belgium, among 6,000 other Australians remembered there. A year after their deaths, the grieving sister had following poem printed in the Hobart Mercury. Sadly, a sister is thinking of her brothers so brave, who died Australian heroes, who sleep in heroes' grave. They were far away when the summons came, but they answered the bugle call. I must go, they said, for the Empire's son. Together must stand or fall. Corporal Charles Leslie Tasman Hay is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War, whose photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal Charles Leslie Tasman Hay, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sound of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and we wish you all a very good evening.